All right, so where we were last week, we had three, or where we are this week, we have 3 units. 3 lessons. One was on the Articles of Confederation. Okay, the Articles of Confederation were our first attempt at a national government after the American Revolution. They create a weak national government, and to be honest with you, it's so weak it doesn't do anything right. In fact, that's what the lesson was about, was how weak it was and the problems that existed. Okay? Then we had a meeting to try to fix or revise the articles. We're about 4 days in that meeting, and we realized we're not going to be able to fix this thing, so we have to come up with a whole new document and a new government. That meeting is called the Constitutional Convention, and that new document, that new government that we come up with is called the Constitution. Okay? So those are the 3 lessons that we worked through this week, and you had 3 little quizzes that go along with them. Where we're picking up is now that government needs to go to the people to be voted on, okay? And for that government to become the law of the land, it needs 9 out of 13 states, okay? So in September of 1787, the Constitution is presented at the Constitutional Convention. It's voted on there. Now we got to send it to the states. And today we're going to be looking at the battle over ratification. Okay, because as you can imagine, there are going to be some people that really feel how about the Constitution. Do they like it? Well, okay, good. There's going to be some people that really don't like the Constitution, and there's going to be some people that really do like the Constitution. And that's the battle over ratification. Okay? Now, by way of introduction, the Constitutional Convention created a new government, but that government can't become a reality until the nation's voters approve it. Okay, so that's where we've been through this week. That's where we're headed next week. All right, we're leaving it up to the voters. The voters have to approve it. 9 out of 13 states. Now, another term for approve is ratify. You're going to hear this term a lot this week and next week, is the term ratify. When we're talking about ratify, we mean approve. So 9 out of 13 states have to ratify or approve this document before it becomes the law of the land. Okay? Now, as you can imagine, there's going to be 2 sides. There's going to be people that really like it and people that really don't like it. Okay? We're going to start with the Federalists. Okay? If you are Federalist, you are pro-ratification, you are pro-Constitution. Okay? So if you're Federalist, you really like the Constitution, you want it to pass. And the reason you really like it is because it creates a strong what's the Constitution going to create? A strong what? A strong government, all right? We really like it because it creates a strong national government. And it does so in a way that keeps federalism alive. Federalism, remember, is that division between the central government and the state governments. Well, we're going to have a strong national government that is going to share power with the states. Okay? So we keep this idea of federalism alive. The national government is going to have power. In fact, it's going to be better than it is under the Articles. The state governments are going to have power, and then they're going to share some power together. What's that national government going to look like? How many parts? 3. And what's going to exist between those parts to make sure power is not abused? System of Checks and balances. Very good, okay? So the Federalists are going to continually argue, look, because I'll be honest with you, anti-Federalists are against the Constitution, they're against ratification. The anti-Federalists are going to be against it because they say the central government has too much power. The Federalists are their main argument, the thing they keep bringing up, we got this, okay? Our national government's going to have 3 branches, and it's going to have this system of checks and balances that is going to protect one branch from dominating the others, okay? We get you. Everybody's worried about a government with too much power because we just got done fighting what? Great Britain, the American Revolution, okay? But the Federalists say, look, we have taken care of it in this new document, in this new government, because we're going to have a strong central government, better than one under the Articles, that's divided into 3 branches, and we got that system of checks and balances. We've got this, okay? You need to vote on it. Now, the reason the Federalists say we need a strong national government is for the things that we talked about that were weaknesses under the Articles of Confederation. Under the Articles of Confederation, the national government could not handle interstate trade, it could not handle national defense, it could not handle foreign relations. Under the new government with the Constitution, it can. Okay, it can handle interstate trade, it can handle national defense, it can handle foreign relations. That's why we need this document to pass. That's why we need this strong national government. The anti-Federalists are going to come right back and they're going to say, but is it too strong? And the Federalists are going to say no, because we have what? What exists to make sure that one branch does not dominate the others? That system of checks and balances, okay? No, all right? You do not have to fear this new government. It's got divided powers, 3 branches, and that system of checks and balances is going to keep one branch from dominating the others, from becoming too strong. Okay, so the Federalists are going to continue with this defense. It's going to be okay. We can survive, okay? We can survive. We're going to protect the people. We're going to protect the states. We're going to have a strong national government. We can get it all. We can have it all. Now, another big point of contention, I'm going to introduce it to you today. We're going to talk about it in more detail next week, is the presence of a Bill of Rights. The Federalists do not believe they need a Bill of Rights, okay, added to the U.S. Constitution. Why? Because state constitutions already protect your rights. And the Federalists are quick to point out, look, you guys are so worried about, you anti-Federalists, you guys are so worried about us taking away power from the states. Well, look, your state constitutions already protect your rights, and we are not going to do anything to get rid of them. This is an example of us sharing power with the states. So we do not need a national Bill of Rights because your rights are already protected in the state constitutions, and we're not going to get rid of those. Okay, we're sharing power with the states. If your rights are protected by the states, they're going to be protected by us too. We don't need a national Bill of Rights. Now, who was the father of the Constitution? It's from the video on Monday. Who's the father of the Constitution? James Madison. James Madison is the father of the Constitution. Well, Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and a guy by the name of John Jay are going to write a series of essays called the Federalist Papers, about 85 essays. Some people call them the Federalist or the Federalists. Some people call them the Federalist Papers. I will refer to them as the Federalist Papers. But they wrote them to get people to vote for the Constitution. Okay, they were in support of the Constitution, which makes sense because this is Madison's baby. Okay, Madison created this. He does not want to see this die. And in these essays, these three guys explain how the Constitution works and why it should be passed. And they do so by taking into account the arguments of the anti-federalists. So you're not going to see them calling those look at those anti-federalists. Boy, are they stupid, and their ideas are dumb. No, that's not what they do. They take the arguments of anti-federalists and then they explain why the Constitution isn't going to do that. Okay? And a bunch of them go back to this theme. We've got separation of powers and we got checks and balances. Okay? So we understand where the anti-federalists are coming from. We are also worried about a government that's too powerful, but this is not it. Okay? We got separation of powers, we got checks and balances. It's all okay. So you guys, the people, can vote on this and approve it. Okay? Now, let's talk about the other side. If the Federalists were pro-Constitution and pro-ratification, if they like the Constitution, they like ratification, the anti-Federalists are going to be what? They're going to be the opposite, okay? So if the Federalists were for ratification and for the Constitution, the anti-Federalists are going to be anti-Constitution and anti-ratification, which means they're going to be against the Constitution and against ratification. And the reason they are against ratification and against the Constitution is they think the federal government is too it's got too much power. They believe the national government is going to overpower state governments. Despite the federalists saying, no, we got separation of powers, we got three branches. Despite the idea, no, we got checks and balances and all that stuff, the anti-federalists are convinced this new national government is going to overpower the state governments. It's going to have too much power and overpower the state governments. And like I said, that's going to be their main argument. If the Federalists are always saying, no, we got separation of powers, we got checks and balances, the anti-Federalists are always saying, nope, this new national government is going to have too much power and it's going to take it away from the state and local governments. It's going to take it away from the people. Now, the other thing the anti-federalists believe in is they want to see a Bill of Rights added to the Constitution. They think a national Bill of Rights is necessary. And again, the Federalists are going to say, no, we don't need one. They're protected by your state constitutions. and we're sharing power with the states, and we're not going to do anything to get rid of the state constitutions, we don't need a national Bill of Rights. The anti-federalists are so geared toward this issue that they eventually force the Federalists to agree to a Bill of Rights. They say, look, if you're not willing to meet us on this, there's no way we're voting for this document. Okay? You got to add a Bill of Rights or we're not going to vote. Okay? And Madison is going to write the Bill of Rights, and I'll be honest with you, I think Madison did it kind of like this. Madison said, all right, fine. If you physically need me to write them out, if you physically need me to put this on paper, I will, because I'm not letting this document die. I don't think it needs to be done because they're protected by the states, but if you physically need me to do this, I will write out a Bill of Rights. Okay? I really think that's what happened. Now, our big anti-federalist leaders are Patrick Henry and Sam Adams. Which makes sense because these are some of the guys that were the loudest against Great Britain before the Revolution. Now, let's look at this document a little bit more, okay? Since this is what the Anti-Federalists want and this is what the Federalists agreed to, let's talk about the Bill of Rights in detail. Now, this is kind of just an introduction. We'll talk more about it next week when we get to this lesson. But the Bill of Rights is written by James Madison, okay? He goes to two earlier Virginia statutes. One is the Virginia Declaration of Rights. Now, why would Madison go to the Virginia Declaration of Rights? Where's Madison from? Virginia. Very good. So he's going to go to the Virginia Declaration of Rights. Now, the thing of it is, if you go and you went to North Carolina, and you went to Massachusetts, you went to Pennsylvania, each state would have a very similar piece of legislation. Each state would have its own Declaration of Rights. And if you looked at that Declaration of Rights, you would see that they were saying a lot of the same things. But Madison's going to go to the Virginia one because he's from Virginia. All right? He's also going to go to the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. And these are the two sources Madison is going to consult. Now, the Bill of Rights is supposed to protect your rights. From whom? Who are we worried is going to take them away? The government. Very good. The Bill of Rights is supposed to protect your rights from the government. It's supposed to protect citizens from the government. Now, by the way, when we say the Federalists didn't want a Bill of Rights, it's not because they were opposed to them. Again, it's because they say, look, the states already protect your rights, and we're not going to do anything with the state constitutions. We agree, Bill of Rights is necessary, but they're already protected. Just like the Federalists are going to say, we also don't want a strong government that could threaten us. We just think we've created one with the Constitution because we got separation of powers and we got checks and balances. Okay? So it's not that they're disagreeing so much with the Anti-Federalists, but how they've gone about and done it, that's where the disagreements arise. Right? Now, the Bill of Rights are amendments. Where do the amendments come in the Constitution? Did they come at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end? Where are the amendments? Beginning, middle, end? End. Very good, because they're the changes. They're the additions. Now, the Bill of Rights specifically refers to which group of amendments? The first how many? 10. The first 10 amendments are the Bill of Rights. Okay? So they're coming at the end of the document. Because these are the changes, these are additions. And the first 10, there are 27 amendments total. The first 10 are the Bill of Rights. Now, what are some of your rights protected by the Bill of Rights? Freedom of speech. Very good. Freedom of religion. Okay? So we're dealing with things like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, the right to assemble. Now, we're going to talk more about these next week. That's amendment number 2. Yep. Okay. We're going to talk about that next week. Okay. So we're talking about those things. We're also going to see things like protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. Your home cannot be searched and your property cannot be seized without a proper reason. Where does this come from? Yeah, very good. Tax collectors before the American Revolution, they were coming in our homes and stealing our stuff, and we did not like that. Okay? So this is something that we wanted to protect against. Which is why I say, again, the Federalists aren't opposed to a Bill of Rights. They just say it's not needed because that sort of thing has already been protected under your state constitution. And to be honest with you, the states probably know more about the rights of the citizens within its borders, which is why the state constitutions need to protect your rights, not the national constitution. We don't need a national Bill of Rights. Okay? But if you want one, we're going to give it to you. There's our little Bill of Rights right here. Now, like I said, Madison goes to 2 previous pieces of legislation. One is the Virginia Declaration of Rights. The Virginia Declaration of Rights was written by George Mason, okay, from Virginia. Brilliant legal mind. Okay, in fact, George Mason University, which is right outside of D.C., has a very, very good law school. And in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, you're going to find things like this notion that everybody has basic human rights that should not be violated by the government. Now, who originally said all people have rights by virtue of the fact that they are born and by virtue of the fact that they are human that nobody can take away? In fact, he called them natural rights. John Locke, very good. This goes all the way back to Locke. And I don't care if you're Federalist or Anti-Federalist. Remember, this is what motivated us in the American Revolution. So that's why I say I think Federalists and Anti-Federalists kind of agree on the same basic principles, but how they go about them is different. For the Federalists, these rights are protected in state constitutions, and this new national government is not going to take them away because we got separation of powers, we got checks and balances. The Anti-Federalists are not so sure. Okay? The other document that he goes to is the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom. Anybody know who wrote the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom? He wrote another document about freedom. Or independence. Thomas Jefferson, good old TJ. Now, what do you think the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom is about? What does it give you? Freedom of religion. Very good, okay? It outlaws an established church. It says the government cannot support a favored church, one favored church over the other. Okay? And by that it means it can't punish you from going to one church over the other. Kind of like Massachusetts. All right, what Massachusetts was doing in the colonial period. All right? Now, has anybody been to Thomas Jefferson's house in Charlottesville, Monticello? Anybody been to Monticello? Did you go down to his grave? Okay. What is on his tombstone? Jefferson wanted to be remembered for three things. What's on his tombstone? He wrote what? This. Okay. He wrote the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom. What else did he write? Declaration of Independence. Very good. And he founded what? It's still in Charlottesville.
What's it start with?
You.
University. It's like a
University
of Virginia.
Of Virginia, UVA, okay? Those are the three things he thought were the most important accomplishments of his life. He wrote the Declaration of Independence, he wrote the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, and he founded UVA. Nowhere on his tombstone are you going to read the fact that he was a president of the United States and a vice president of the United States. Okay? This was one of the things he wanted to be remembered for.
How do you make this?
He just decided, he kind of laid out the curriculum and the organization of it and got people to contribute money to start building it. And I think he might have also donated the land that they were going to build the buildings on. But that's how it works out. Now, once we get this added, okay, once we get this Bill of Rights added, one by one, the end result are the states kind of fall in line and they begin to vote for the Constitution. Remember, we need 9 out of 13 for it to become the law of the land. Delaware is first in December 1787. So the Constitution is introduced at the Constitutional Convention or presented at the Constitutional Convention in September 1787. Then it goes to the states. By just a couple months later, Delaware's like, we're good, we're voting on it. Okay, we agree with it. Virginia doesn't come along until July of 1788. And sadly, remember, these 9 out of 13, we are not one of the top 9, okay? I believe, if memory serves me correct, Virginia is number 10, okay, when we approve it in July 1788. So technically, it's already the law of the land by July, or by the time we get around to approving it in July 1788. Now, the rest of the worksheets in this little packet are kind of review worksheets to help you out on your own. Okay, so for example, Washington, Madison, Hamilton, are they Federalist or anti-Federalist? Federalist, very good, they're Federalist. Now, I want to tell you something about Washington. Washington was a Federalist, but Washington kept his ideas to himself, okay? Because he was president of the Constitutional Convention. He knew, he was worried that if he came out and he said he was a Federalist, that might cause some people to vote for the document. And he wanted to be sure that we had good discussion and good debate, because maybe this is not the best solution, okay? So he was very, very quiet about his opinions because he wanted people to be able to discuss things freely. He did not want to influence them one way or the other. Because by discussing things, that's how we come up with compromise, and that's how we get a good solution. So Washington was very, very quiet about that. Now, if Washington, Madison, and Hamilton are Federalists, Patrick Henry, Sam Adams, and Richard Henry Lee are Anti-Federalist. Very good. Anti-Federalist.
Which is a better side?
That is actually one of the opinion questions that I had in this packet. You decide which one has the better argument, okay? Who would you be? I got to be honest with you, I think I would probably lean toward federalism, okay? Because we did need a stronger national government. And I think I would have been persuaded that the separation of powers and the checks and balances would have protected us and the states from having too much power taken away. So I probably would have gone with the Federalists. Madison, what did Madison write? Well, he's father of the Constitution. He wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. He wrote the Constitution and Bill of Rights. What did Jefferson write? Declaration of Independence and the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom. What did George Mason write? Virginia Declaration of Rights. Okay, Virginia Declaration of Rights. Then on the other page, you just got some terms to define, okay? Like the big one is ratification. What does ratification mean? To approve. Very good. To approve. If you're Federalist, are you for or against the Constitution? For. You're for the Constitution. If you're anti-Federalist, you're not. You're against. You're against. Federalist. I call them the Federalist Papers. Sometimes people refer to them as the Federalist or the Federalists. The Federalist. Is that for or against the Constitution? For. They were essays written to support the Constitution. They're for the Constitution. And then the Bill of Rights is the how many amendments? First 10. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments.